Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us on a rainy night. If you please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing to the invocation.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Wilson.
Please pray with me. Heavenly Father, lest we forget, remind us to begin our prayers with words of thanks. Sometimes we're so burdened with life, we forget to be thankful. Accept our thanks for all you've given us. Watch over all who suffer, care for the broken and those who feel useless. Make us see and live as Jesus would have us see and live. Give this council wisdom and guidance with each decision we make. In your name we pray. Amen.
Call to order our March 2nd, 2023 council meeting. We'll begin the meeting with a consideration to approve tonight's agenda. Are there any changes or revisions or motions?
Motion to approve. Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All members voted for the motion. We'll begin tonight with a public hearing before our business meeting begins. We have a public hearing and discussion of cases ANNX 2210-006. Before I read this case, I'm going to ask our city manager to review the guidelines for public hearings for those in attendance tonight who will be participating.
Thank you for attending our City of Canton public hearing. Tonight we'll have a public hearing on one set of cases. The hearings are recorded verbatim and become part of the legal record for the cases being discussed. As such, you're required to sign up and fill out an affidavit to speak during the public hearing process. The public hearing was advertised in the legal organ, noticed to neighboring property owners under our development code via mail, and noticed to the public via large yellow public notice signs at the property or properties that are part of the case. The hearing will begin with a declaration of the mayor to open the public hearing, including the case number, description of the case, and the summary by staff. Those wishing to speak in favor of the applicant, including the applicant, will be given the first opportunity to speak. They will have 10 minutes in total to speak on behalf of their position. Those in opposition will then be given a total of 10 minutes to speak on behalf of their position. Those in support may reserve time to rebut or comment on any opposition statements. Once all parties have spoken or the total time for each side has expired, the mayor will close the public hearing, and at that time the city council will be free to discuss the case and question staff about the case. In the interest of all parties and to give fairness to both sides, I will be the timekeeper for each side. As there may be several speakers, we ask that you keep your comments concise and try not to duplicate the comments of other speakers. Please give your name and address for the record before you start your comments. Please address your comments to the city council. The audience is asked to maintain decorum. Cheering, talking, jeering, or clapping during the public hearing process is not appropriate. Those that cannot adhere to the guidelines may be called out of order by the mayor and escorted from the meeting. The hearing is a monologue. Council will not address comments during the hearing time to those speaking.
Thank you, Mr. Peppers. So tonight's public hearing and discussion will be for cases ANNX 2210-006, RZON 2211-002, and CUP 2211-007. Applicant seeks to annex, rezone, and gain conditional use permit approval for 14.36 acres for property located more or less at 620 Prominence Point Parkway. Applicant seeks to construct a 114-unit townhouse development at 620 Prominence Point Development Partners, LLC. Mr. Green, could you review this case quickly for us?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. You pretty much summed it up there with the agenda description. This is a collection of properties primarily owned by the Gray family. Comprises the 14.365 acres looking to be annexed and rezoned from AG, agricultural in the county, to RA8, which is residential attached, 8 units to the acre as the City of Canton zoning district. As you stated, they are looking to construct 114 townhome units. In a recent email from Mr. Huff, who is the attorney for the applicants, he noted that these would be for sale units, owner-occupied, fee simple. Also, earlier today, we had an email from Ms. Schmidt concerned about a dam that's kind of up property from this. Our city engineer, Bethany Watson, was able to get some information from the county, which I placed on your seats there, that explains her findings that the dam at one time was a Category 1 dam, which means there's a possible loss of life if the dam was to fail. Corrections have been made to the dam, according to Ms. Watson. It is now a Category 2 dam, which makes it not fall under the Georgia Safe Dams Act. Some of y'all may have received some comments from some adjacent property owners. The only one that I have received at the office was in relation to Ms. Schmidt's email of this morning. And that's it, if you have something for me.
We may after the hearing is closed. So thank you, Mr. Green. So at this point, we will open the public hearing for ANNX 2210-006, RZON 2211-002, and CUP 2211-007. And we'll begin with those in support of the cases, beginning with the applicant.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Parks Huff of the law firm of Sams Larkin & Huff, and I represent the applicant in regard. And I think I've got a presentation that might be up some right there. So this is a collection of property all owned by the Gray family. It's on Prominence Point Parkway. Outlined here, you can see the aerial photograph showing what you have in the area. I'll go zoom in a little bit closer. As you go further, I'll go north to Marietta Highway. You have the public shopping center, Zaxby's, and the commercial development there. That under development site is multifamily. And then you have on Prominence Point Parkway, both north and south, combination of detached, smaller lot homes and some townhome communities. And so the first question, I think, is, should this be in the city? Should it be annexed in the city? And however this is developed, it's going to be accessed off Prominence Point Parkway. The Gray family wants or needs to sell, so hopefully it'll be sold as a collector, so it can be a meaningful development. I think that it makes eminent sense to be in the city. Otherwise, I believe that you wouldn't have another subdivision on this street that's not in the city. So it would be a little confusing and makes infinite sense to be in the city. That's the annexation question. The area, again, given what's around here, the Gray family looks around and thinks that they should be able to sell for development that's similar to what they have around them, north and south on Prominence Point Parkway, recognizing that behind us is lower density community that's here and that we were able to meet with at the public input meeting. This is the site plan that we've come up with, and a couple points here is we have an access point at a median break. That was one of the comments from the Cherokee County staff, is ensuring that we have our access lined up with a median break that's there, so there'll be full access to this proposed subdivision. And again, however this is developed, that would be the location for that access. Then you enter the site, and you have the homes that are between that road that's parallel to Prominence Point Parkway would face the Prominence Point, and so they'd be rear-loaded. So you'd have the front of the homes as you drove along that section of Prominence Point Parkway. There's sidewalk along there, so they would face the sidewalk and the road, which would be an attractive view as you drive along that section. Enter into the site, and you've got a large green space area that with the homes that surround that. That's where amenity would be. The amenities have not been determined yet. That's going to be determined later on based upon feedback from the community, from the builder, to determine what he thinks is going to be most wanted. Dog park, pavilion, those kind of things are what's anticipated there. Point out a little bit of a question about the the dam, there is a lake to the north, if you look at this, to the right-hand side is where the lake is, and that draw where the drainage comes in on our right-hand side of our property is where that lake drains through. Obviously, we will have to ensure that our development stays clear of any breach zone that they would have, and our design would accommodate that. So, but the drainage already goes that direction there, and we would have our detention ponds, but they're higher than us and drain through us. Obviously, the community has concerns about how we interrelate with them, and this is proposed to be 114 homes, which is right at 8 units per acre, and we have a 50-foot buffer that is proposed around the perimeter of the development. And what we've done is having at the beginning of that buffer adjacent to the neighbors would remain natural. So the first 10-something feet would be natural. Then we would have double rows of evergreen plantings, whatever the neighbors would like in that area to be evergreen. And then behind that, we would propose a privacy fence so that I hate when you do privacy fence and stick it on the property line, so the buffer is, they're not getting any benefit. So what we have embedded that in the middle of all that greenery that would be planted would be the privacy fence and then additional plantings. And then, so that whole 50-foot is going to be natural, planted, privacy fence, some more plantings, then the backyards, and then the townhomes. One of the things to note about how a townhome community works is, and these are just examples of how you'd have the homes facing Prominence Point Parkway, and those would be a rear-loaded product. But one of the things I'd like to point out about how this community, as a homeowners association, covenanted community would be, as a neighbor, all the exterior landscaping is going to be maintained by a professional company at one time. So when you have a professional crew come in, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, during the week, they would handle all the landscaping. So you don't have leaf blowing, edging, all that kind of stuff going on the weekends. Townhome communities live quiet because of that, things like that. You don't have all the activity you have in a single-family detached community where you've got backyards and all that kind of stuff. So all that's handled. Also, we would ensure that the homeowners association ensures the upkeep of the exteriors, the roofs, and everything so that the community is long-term attractive and viable. We have committed to it being a for-sale community, which is something that's been very much made impression on us as an important component, and we would be agreeable to covenants that would make sure that that is in fact enforced by the homeowners association and a condition of zoning. So at this time, I'm going to reserve some additional time to respond back to questions raised by the community. Thank you.
Okay. We do have 5 citizens that signed up to speak tonight. Are any of those here to speak in favor of or support? Okay. At this point, we will open comments, 10-minute comments total for those in opposition. Mr. Steve McCarty.
Council members.
If you'll state your name for the record.
Steve McCarty's my name.
Thank you.
I live in Canton. I live near Prominence Point. I saw the slides. I saw the units. Someone did a really, really good job because I was attracted to those things. That neighborhood's going to look really nice. I'm not against growth. But here's what I'm afraid of losing. My friends in Los Angeles, they say, what's it like in Canton? I say, I'll tell you what, you can leave Walgreens and be in the woods in 2 blocks. And that's very special to me. And that stretch along there is developed nicely. It's got a wonderful center strip that's just green as hell. It's wonderful. And I applaud the presentation. Because they see that 15 acres, they see those condos. Okay. But my concern is that we have not seen the results of the last two real estate developments that went in that area. We have that huge apartment complex there in front of Publix. I think they're just opening the doors. And we have a convenience store, gas station going in across the street. I want to see the effects of those two developments before I jump onto another one. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Stacy Chambers.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Stacy Chambers, and I live at 684 Prominence Point Park. I own the property, and I guess I'm going to show you because the documents I'm getting in the mail, because my home is less than 1,000 feet from where they're building it, are different than the slides I've seen today. My home is I don't know if y'all can see from here, is the triangle right here. It's just woods on the other side of me. So my home will be based on what they're sending me, my literal house will be less than 150 feet from the water retention pond they're going to put right there. Now, my question is, mostly I've contacted the lawyers, I've left messages, I've gotten no reply. My ultimate question is, why didn't they not just buy my property and then move the water retention pond back where my property is so it wouldn't affect anyone? Because I don't have anyone that lives to the right of me. It's all owned by Cherokee County Education System. Instead, my small children are going to have to play next to the mosquitoes, the snakes, the rats, in less than 150 feet, based on what they're sending me. So when I bought my home, that was not what I planned on my children growing up next to. And I'm already in the woods having to deal with the insects and whatnot, and I already have to deal with the traffic on that road, and I'm sure other people will speak on that. But my biggest problem is my bedroom being less than 150 feet from a huge water retention pond to 120-something townhomes. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Stedding.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in opposition to the proposed development of 620 Prominence Point Parkway. My name is Linda Stedding. I reside in Mills Ridge Subdivision on Millswood Run. I'm an affected property owner within 1,000 feet of the proposed development. 114 townhomes is incompatible with the surrounding area and inappropriate for this location. Current and future use maps for both the city and county designate this parcel as suburban neighborhood living with an appropriate density of 2 to 3 single-family homes. This proposal calls for 7.9 units per acre, multifamily, 2.5 to 4 times higher than the density recommended under the current and future maps. Citizens rely on these maps when they make the largest investment of their lifetime, being the purchase of their home. Many of the people behind me did. On this side of Prominence Point Parkway, where the development will be located, adjacent nearby properties in the county, cities of Canton and Holly Springs, are all zoned either R20, single family, or R40, R80. If annexed, this property should be annexed as an R20 single family development to be consistent with the surrounding areas and future use maps. This would provide a good transition to the higher density neighborhoods in the Prominence Plan development area on the other side of Prominence Point Parkway and provide badly needed single family homes. According to the city's housing update on page 19, to maintain the current blend of housing in Canton, the city will need twice as many single family units as multi. With the number of approved multifamily developments in the pipeline, adding additional multifamily units to a site designated for single-family homes is inconsistent with this goal. I might add, single-family for sale community would provide an opportunity for the city's housing initiative to provide assistance for first-time buyers in the form of interest rate buy-downs or down payment assistance. A traffic study has not yet been presented, and approval should not move forward without one. I believe it's widely accepted that the current infrastructure is not capable of supporting current traffic loads, and certainly not additional ones. In closing, we respectfully request the annexation, rezoning, and conditional use be denied as it is currently proposed. Should the city move forward and approve annexation and rezoning, we request that the zoning be limited to R20 single family only, and the conditional use request be denied in its totality. Thank you.
Thank you. Tori Tippins?
Good evening. My name is Tori Tippins. I'm a resident of Mills Ridge Drive. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you again so soon. As you know, myself and my neighbors are pro-sustainable growth. I wanted to take opportunity to say thank you for the infrastructure that you're working towards. For example, the traffic improvements coming down the pipeline as presented by Mr. Peppers just a few weeks ago. As you know, this proposed rezoning of 620 Prominence Parkway is 7.9 units per acre rather than the current zoned 1 to 3 units of the surrounding agriculture area. The land usage maps do specify that this is a suburban area, and this is a request of adding high density to a single-family community area. We're not opposed to the new neighbors here, but I am asking the council to deny the rezoning as it's currently presented and make it true R20. To echo the zoning analysis on page 6, the proposed use as a residential use project is compatible. The density and the type of housing, townhomes, is not compatible. For the record, it is challenging as a citizen when an application is incomplete, yet the public comment opportunity is only at the beginning. Preparing for tonight, there was only so much information that we could review as the developer is sharing right before we have the opportunity to comment. Personally, I wanted to say on record, I believe a case without a complete application should not be considered, and all information such as traffic studies should be uploaded for citizens to review before the application is up for approval. We're thankful for a development that desires to build for sale homes to grow the pathway to home ownership opportunities in Canton. We do, however, feel this high-density development would not be harmonious with the area. Keter and Prominence are already high cut-through areas, and adding a compact building area of 114 townhomes would impact the traffic noted in the zoning analysis. However, as far as we could see, we have been unable to see the documents of a traffic study. We respectfully request that the current rezoning application be denied or zoned true R20, single-family unit homes, making the housing harmonious with the homes surrounding the proposed development. We're grateful for this council and how seriously you take each case before you. One more thing for the record. Is it possible to go back 3 slides? One more forward, I apologize. Right there. I believe there might be a typo, Providence Point Parkway, that it is Prominence Point Parkway. Thank you.
Thank you. Chad Lambeth. Okay, great. I thought that address looked suspicious, but it's my job to ask. So at that point, we will. I guess we have time left on the.
Mr. Huff has reserved 3 minutes and 42 seconds.
Okay, Mr. Huff.
Give me 1 second.
We are recalibrating our clocks and.
Whenever you're ready.
When you look at the area, there isn't anything on Prominence Point Parkway that accesses directly on Prominence Point Parkway that's probably less than 4 units per acre. So an R20 would yield like a 1.75. That's just unrealistic. And the family that owns this property looks up, north and south along Prominence Point Parkways and sees developments, 4, 5, 6, plus the multifamily at how many 20 units per acre that is. So in the context of this area, it's not low density residential. In fact, when you look at where you put housing, you put it close to the interstates, close to shopping with the shopping center there. put it on traffic corridors that go north, south, east, and west. So this is the reason why Prominence Point began to begin with, because this is an appropriate place for this type of development. So that is addressing that question. The property to the south, I do just want to point out too, that however this is developed, that's the low point of that side of the property, so you're always going to have a detention pond there. And it is, her property sits below the power line easement that's there, so there's quite a bit of separation between their property and the detention area, and it will be fenced and appropriately landscaped pursuant to your code. So I think that can hopefully address that question. Usually we have questions about school board, and we have a school board contribution that we've agreed to, but also want to point out that Liberty Elementary School is at 73% capacity, Freedom Middle School is 78% capacity, and according to the Cherokee County School Board records, the high school is at 85% capacity. So this is actually in an area where you actually have school capacity, and you have a property that sits on a road that's designed for this type of traffic in an area with this type of development that's already on both sides of the road of Prominence Point Parkway. And so we think this is an appropriate area for this type of use, and that the client has put together a plan that is respectful of creating a buffer to the rear where the single-family detached homes that have been there, the lower density is, and also having a thoughtful design with some green space interior, homes facing the streets instead of the back of the homes facing the streets, which will be an attractive feature, and addressing all the transportation aspects in terms of providing decel lanes, median breaks and such. So we ask that you, and we'll be glad to answer any additional questions you have about the proposal, but we'll be glad to work with any suggestions that you have. And I appreciate your time and consideration.
At this point, we will close the public hearing and open up to council for discussion and any questions for Mr. Green. Ms. Schmidt?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is probably, is Ms. Watson here?
She is.
Oh, there she is. Hi. I was expecting to see you up front. I just didn't know if this would be a question for you or not. I just wondered if you could briefly explain who would the dam that's in question that some of the residents have concerns about be part of this development? Who controls that dam? What were the repairs about? If you could just summarize that for us.
Hello.
Welcome.
So the Keeter Lake Dam is the name of the lake there, and it is owned by the two property owners that are just to the north of this property. I can't remember the exact addresses, but it's off of Loring Lane, and I can't think of the name of that subdivision or the road. But anyways, the dam is 100% controlled by those property owners. The work that was done recently was to declassify this dam from a Category 1 dam to a Category 2. So with that said, the Category 2 dams are no longer regulated by the Safe Dams Act, which basically means that it's safer now than it was a year ago, and there's not an issue. Now, like Mr. Huff said, before this project would move forward, we would want to make sure that none of the homes are in the dam breach zone, as well as above any flooding issues. So,
thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Watson, while you're here, could you address the traffic study?
Yes, I have asked that they supply a traffic impact analysis. I'm not sure if that's gotten to the developer yet, but that is part of my comments.
It has not been conducted yet, though.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
But it would be required, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, Ms.
Ms. Watson, just as a follow-up, for the benefit of the public, can you outline what the differences are between a Zone 1 and a Zone 2
Dam?
dam?
Okay, so a Category 1 dam is that if there was any significant failures, there is a possible or a probable cause for for death. And then a Category 2 is that if the dam were to fail, there is not a probable cause for death.
So when they did these recent repairs, they made it safer so that if the dam does breach, the impact on life there is none.
There is none.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. And this dam will not belong to this development or this HOA.
No, in no way.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's it for me.
Okay. Questions, comments?
I do, yeah, not for Ms. Watson. Do you have to?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Huff has heard this 100 times probably, but Mr. Green, wherever you are, if you could make a note to ask the applicant if they'd be willing to contribute to a housing fund, that would be appreciated. Also, it was brought up by actually a couple of residents of the existing neighborhood that they would like for the applicant to consider on the periphery single-family homes and then townhomes on the interior, if that's something that they would consider, realizing that they certainly would lose some of the density that this proposed project offers. And that's all I have for now.
Ms. McGrew?
Okay, thank you. Mr. Green, the county has this property zone now as AG.
Yes, ma'am.
What can be done with AG property?
Single-family detached homes, for sure. Farmland.
Prisons?
Prisons, as Mr. Dyer noted.
I'm serious. That is an allowed use in agricultural zoning.
I believe you. Just very dramatic.
Okay, well, I'm sorry I asked.
I can get you
The exterior architecture, Mr. Huff, will go really well with that. So to help with the perceived density, if the applicant didn't want to go with single family on the back, possibly they could go with stacked duplexes with space between them to give the appearance of single family.
I can certainly look into that. I do know that part of our code specifically mentions that stacked units are not permitted in some of the multifamily districts.
Uh-huh. Okay. Thank you.
Anything else, Ms. McGrew? Okay. Ms. Schmidt?
Mr. Green, some of the residents in their questions referred to the county's recommendations. They did review this, and can you tell us what all the county said about their opinion on this development? Thank you.
These are the county's comments. Reduce the overall density to more compatible with adjacent developments to the north and south of the annexation parcels. Realign the proposed entrance to avoid right-in, right-out only access along Prominence Point Parkway. Note that this development and the apartments proposed near the shops at Prominence Point, and those apartments are indeed under construction and almost completed, will create excessive traffic at the intersection of Marietta Highway and Prominence Point Parkway. Townhomes should be for sale instead of for rental. Mr. Huff's email has already stated that they will be fee simple ownership. Remedy the unincorporated island potentially created by this annexation. Mr. Parks has supplied a revised survey that carves out a small little piece of property that I have sent to the county to get their thoughts on it and to make sure that this does not create that unincorporated island. And that was the comments, the bullet points that was supplied by the county personnel.
Thank you. And then one more question, which is probably for Ms. Watson again, sorry. When a traffic study is requested, what specifically will it be looking at? And will it look at existing intersections that aren't an intersection of prominence point in this development? For example, my favorite intersection to refer to, the Wendy's-Zaxby's intersection.
Generally, a traffic impact analysis or a traffic study would look at close by intersections. I don't know that this one in particular would look at the Wendy's intersection, just because of the distance. I mean, obviously there will be some impact, but compared to what's there now, it will be minimal, because it's already an issue. So it's not going to make it that much worse than it is, but it's definitely something that we could ask specifically that they look at that intersection as part of this
Can we
development.
ask specifically for that intersection?
Don't see why not.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Mr. Green, in the bullet points that you previously read, the comments from the county, you did mention that there would be increased traffic at the intersection.
That was one of the points that they did raise. I'm assuming one of their city engineers looked at that and provided that comment on their report.
Mm-hmm. And that is without a traffic study having been done. So I'm wondering, where did the county get that that information, or that come to that conclusion?
I do not know the answer to that question, but I'll get you the answer.
All right. Appreciate it.
And Mr. Green, I know the county mentioned this, and then also in comments from community development, it mentions the unincorporated island would be created by this development, which again is not allowed by state annexation law. Can you point out where that would be on this map? I mean, since our community development department mentioned it.
It would be that triangular piece that was referenced earlier.
Right, okay, right.
If you go to, there's one more up.
Right, that's the triangle below. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but there's one of the drawings that actually shows the notch. If you look at the very bottom left corner of that shape, you'll see about a 10 by 10 notch in the corner. You can see it better on this one, on that bottom left corner. You'll see where it indents in. That was the suggestion that we originally received from the county to the applicant on how to deal with an unincorporated island. We are now working with the county to get that verified that that's what they wanted to see.
Okay. Thank you for clarification. Ms. Smith?
Mr. Green, if a traffic study showed impact at, for example, the Wendy's intersection, who would then be responsible for improving that intersection? Like the cost?
Of improving the intersection at the Wendy's and Prominence Point?
Yes, sir.
I don't think that would be the developer's responsibility.
That would be a system-wide improvement that would,
Okay.
you could not impose on a particular development.
Correct. Just wanted to make sure. Thank you. And then same with any of the other intersections that aren't the actual intersection of this development. Is that correct?
The applicant would pay an impact fee, and impact fees can be used for capacity or improvements that are related to system improvements.
Thank you.
So we're saying a traffic study would be required.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Thank
if
you.
this
Thank
annexation
you for
goes through and rezoning is approved.
So if
then
we
during
require a traffic study, when would that be required? When would it be ordered? When we would have that information? We certainly wouldn't have it by the time we would be asked, considered to approve or deny this, would we?
A traffic study generally takes a little bit of time, so I do not think they would have time for it to be ready by the action meeting time. It certainly would be required during the land disturbance permit process if this annexation request is successful.
It seems like that information would be a little too late at that point, but in my opinion, something for us to consider. Okay, Mr. Tully?
Mr. Green, real quickly, can you find out what they anticipate the price points to be for, and the range of square footage that they're proposing, or that they will be proposing? Thank you.
Any further questions? Ms. McGrew?
Mr. Green, when we talked earlier, there was discussion about covenants with the HOA to make sure that these were always fee simple, knowing that about 10% could become rental if that 10% limit was included in the covenants. Does that make sense? No.
I believe that was what Mr. Huff alluded to, that typically in this situation, 10% of the units could be rental under a different homeowners association policies or requirements. That's the way I recall him making that statement.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Thank you, Mr. Green. We'll move forward into our business meeting. You have in your packet the draft minutes from our meeting on February 16th, or any revisions, changes, or motions.
Move to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All members voted for the motion. We have one informational item tonight. This is just for information only, no discussion. And that is information only, presentation of staff report, cases ANNX 2302-004 and RZON 2302-001, annexation and rezoning of 3.53 acres for property lying between Bluffs Parkway and I-575. Applicant seeks to rezone the property to GC, General Commercial, for the operation of an indoor recreational facility, parcel number 005, tax map book number 14N22, Black Horse Ventures, LLC. Mr. Green?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, members of council, just as you stated, it's an annexation and rezoning request for that small parcel that lies, or there's actually three parcels that are in unincorporated Cherokee County that lie between 575 and Bluffs Parkway. The gentleman, I believe, has purchased the property, and he is looking to construct an indoor recreation facility there, primarily for a volleyball team, which I believe is called Fury. Currently, they are operating in the little metal Butler building on your left-hand side as you're going down Obaleska Street, and they will relocate from there to the new facility if his annexation request is successful. And this will come before you guys the first Thursday in April for the public hearing and, of course, the action meeting, if all goes well, the third Thursday in April.
Okay. Thank you. You also have in your packet the January financials. For your information only, are there any questions? Okay. No one signed up for our 10-minute public input this evening. No old business, so we will move into new business at this time. We have two items. Item A, discussion and possible action for the Bowling Park baseball field fencing project. The scope of work is for removal of existing ball field fencing and replacing it with new fencing, gates, backstops, fencing toppers, and windscreen on fields 1, 2, and 3. Mr. Hooper, glad to see you.
Good evening. Yeah, so the fencing at the baseball fields at Bowling Park it's unrepairable. kind of a residential style wire to begin with. And we're looking to replace it with all three fields with a black plastic coated fencing, the top rail, the backstop pads, the windscreens around. The total price for this did go out to bid, by the way, and all three of the fields combined is $173,938.20.
Okay. And I do believe you were asking for action on this tonight. Is that correct?
Yes, we would like to.
And that is so we can get the work done in time for the spring sports season.
Yeah, we want to get it done too in combination with the paving that we're doing. And there is the fence that goes down the left-hand side as you're entering the park. We're going to be removing that before we get everything all finished up and replacing it with the guardrail, like we have in other areas, just to kind of open that area up. And it's in really bad shape too. So that was kind of something we were looking to do, and probably within the next year or so as well.
Okay. Ms. Schmidt?
Will you clarify that?
So I'm going to apologize because I
Yeah.
think I misspoke the other day when I mentioned this too. Field 1 is the old softball field. Field 2 and 3 are the baseball fields. What Mr. Hooper is talking about was along the soccer fields, but as you know, in the rest of that part of the park, we have that wooden guard, and that's what we would put in front of that soccer field area.
So there would not be a fence there, just the guardrail.
There would not be a chain link.
I love that.
Yeah, it looks kind of like a prison yard. I mean, it looks bad.
It is, and the kids
fence
like
is in really
sneak
bad
through
shape.
it, and
Yeah, and we want to bring the guardrail up closer to the road where people can't drive in the mud there.
Okay.
Also, so.
And then I had one other question. I really like the black coated fencing. I've seen it in places where it peels off. Is that something? Does it have to be replaced then, or can it be repaired, or does it last longer than?
It'll last a good long time. I think it'll last as long as the fence. You know, most of the time the issues with fences, they roll out at the bottom or on the top. So I think typically that outlasts.
Okay.
That.
Sure has a warranty. Or do you know how long that fence warranty?
I don't recall what the warranty is on the fence, but I think it does have a product warranty on it.
Okay. Mr. Dillon?
How old is the existing fence? Do we know?
Oh, gosh.
Old as dirt?
Yeah, it predates everybody here. I played on those fields when I was a kid.
But you're so young.
Yeah, I was going to say, that was not that many years ago,
It's
Scott.
over 30 years. I know. I've been here. It's been.
But did we have a guesstimate as to how long this new fencing would last?
I mean, I would imagine at least 15 to 20, I would think. This is a higher grade fence, too. The materials are a lot better.
Awesome. Not cheap, but awesome.
No, it's not cheap.
Any other questions?
I'll move to award the fencing project to ProFence LLC.
We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All members voted for the motion. Item B, discussion and possible action on Heritage Park playground grass turf to be replaced in playground area only. Mr. Hooper, 2 for 2 tonight. So.
If you'll recall, about a year ago, a little over a year ago, you all approved a new playground down at Heritage Park, and it's not there yet. It's in boxes at our shop. A lot of supply chain issues with that, so it's kind of been delayed. But more recently, we did get all the stuff in, and they have removed the mound, or we did it in-house. Sometime along the way, we were looking at renderings and started noticing all the playgrounds that looked the best had the turf. So me and Adam started exploring the pricing on that, and the company that is doing the playground, Playworks, gave us a bid for basically $70,000 to do that playground in turf. The turf has a pad underneath, all recycled materials. It has the sand inside it that instead of the black rubber pellets, So it's very environmentally friendly. It's supposed to stay about 20 degrees cooler than a normal surface. It's ADA friendly. And we do have a sidewalk going in all the way from the walking trails into the playground, and the border of the playground will be a sidewalk. So it'll be very accessible. And we felt like the more we made that accessible inside the playground, the better. And it does have a 10-year warranty on the turf itself. I expect it to last longer than that. We spend about $10,000 a year on replacing mulch at our playgrounds. We would expect this one to be at least $8,000 to $10,000 to start out the first mulch, because it's like 17 inches thick. So we just felt like this might be a good one to try the turf on and see how we like that, and possibly do all of our playgrounds in it eventually.
And so this, I believe this bid is for $70,000, and if we spend that much initially on it, and $10,000 a year, so we actually be saving money, would actually pay for itself, correct?
Yeah, potentially over time, hopefully.
And that park and playground is in the flood zone and has flooded frequently. So when that park floods, we would probably have to replace the mulch more frequently. So
yeah, we do have to replace it every time it floods.
And this turf is compatible with the flood zone and flooding, and I believe you can hose it off.
They told us a story about one of their parks, I think it was in Florida, that was underwater for like 2 weeks, and they just cleaned it off and it was good to go. Nothing besides just pressure washer.
And is this material available? How soon could it be installed if we approve this, John?
Yeah, we don't expect it to hold the project up. The only thing that we were kind of rushing this for was because we need to make a decision on how we put the drainage system under the park or under the playground. If we do the mulch, it's going to be one style, and if we do this, it'll be another style. So we need to make that decision before they start the install. But I don't expect it to delay the project, no.
Okay, because we'd like to get that playground equipment in. So. Ms. Wilson?
And tell me once more why we don't have to bid this out.
Well, this is the same playground company. It's more of a change order type situation, and we did look at some other companies, but most of the playground or the turf companies deal with athletic fields, and it's a lot different and a lot more expensive, to be honest.
I'm not sure if they would want a different company putting substrate under their.
It's more of an amendment with their contract because we're changing the product.
Oh, I just wanted to clarify, the funding for this project and the fencing project up Bowling are both SPLOST?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Waterman?
So by installing this turf and avoiding the cost of mulch, so the payback would be 6 years, 70,000.
Yeah, probably 6 to 8.
6 to 8 years.
Yeah.
Are there any other tasks, I guess, when the park floods, or anything that you won't have to do?
Well, just
as a result of having mulch in there.
Yeah, it'll just be a lot easier cleanup, I think, more than anything for our people. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I'm trying to see if we can.
More savings?
Right.
Well, yeah.
Right. I mean,
more savings, but lower the payback.
Sure. I mean, if it floods, typically, if it's bad enough in that area, it silts up real bad, we would just have to replace the mulch. So that's another, probably $5,000 to $6,000 per time in that one alone.
So
when that park is flooded
multiple times,
2 or 3 times in the past 2 years, I believe. So, I mean, I think current rate probably have payback sooner rather than later. But.
And I think it's going to be a nice looking product on top of everything. I think it's just going to be something more usable.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but this product is more ADA compatible than the mulch. I mean,
it really is.
Mulch is not really.
Yes, this specifically calls out in the paperwork that we got that it's ADA.
Ms. McGrew?
Mr. Hooper, what do you anticipate for extra cleanup time? Do you anticipate your cleanup time in the park to be less or extra? I know this would have to be blown off.
I would expect this just to be pressure washed off in a matter of a couple hours, where if we remulch it, we're probably looking at 6 to 8 hours.
I believe it would take regular blowing off maintenance too during the week.
Oh, yeah, sure. I don't think it would be anything that would strain our crews any more than doing the sidewalks while they're there.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's just that. Pressure washing would just be after flooding or something, something happened.
I was thinking of blowing off pebbles and sticks, something that children would fall on and hurt themselves on the surface.
Our crews are in those parks every day, and Adam's guys do a great job of checking all those kind of things out daily.
And dog accidents, that sort of thing has to be looked after.
Right.
Thank you.
Anything else? Ms. Wilson?
You ready for a motion? I make a motion
Yes, ma'am.
to approve the Heritage Park Playground grass turf to be replaced to the playground area only.
Second.
A motion, a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All members voted for the motion.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hoover. Mr. Peppers.
Few items for you tonight. I did receive information earlier this week from the Georgia Department of Transportation. They will be working in, I think it's 2024, on a resurfacing project for 575 in the area of exit 16, where we have historically had accidents in the S curve. They are going to be putting down a different surface material in that section that is supposed to provide more friction for tires as it relates to wet surfaces. So I did receive that information today. I wanted to share that with you. You as well as the rest of us see many times when the road is shut down, it's being diverted because there's an accident somewhere in the corridor. So I wanted to share that. Second of all, we did have an inquiry over the weekend from a resident about a program that is offered through the Georgia Department of Family and Children's Services. It is the Low Income Household Water Assistance Program. And basically the way the program is set up, the state of Georgia receives some federal funding. They then partner with community action agencies who can then work with customers and a local public water provider to help with bills in a bill pay situation. The program was rolled out from the standpoint that the state basically said, if you're a customer and you're having a problem with your water bill, contact your local provider and ask them to sign up for the program. As I said, we had not received anything up until the weekend. And in fact, the individual that asked us to look into it actually works for the community action agency that would be controlling it for our area. Our responsibility as part of that program is to sign up as a vendor. And so it's really just an application from the city standpoint back to the state electronically to be able to act in that system. I did reach out to the city of Ball Ground. They currently participate in that program. They have 2 customers who are currently utilizing it. But before we move forward, I want to let you know about the program and ask if you had any specific questions that you would like us to look into. If there's not really any issues, we can sign up tomorrow and make the program available. There's really no business change to the city except for the fact on some of these bills we might be receiving a check directly from the state as opposed to the individual. Any questions on that?
Any questions? I believe we've all discussed that. I believe everyone is supportive. So.
Okay. Lastly, I have asked the clerk to put in front of you a copy of a draft resolution. As you know, we are in the legislative session right now, and occasionally there are bills that are dropped in either the House or the Senate that relate to local control measures. There are currently 2 bills pending in the State House that are concerning to local government local governments across the state, cities, and counties, and are currently being monitored by the Georgia Municipal Association and the Association of County Commissions of Georgia. One is House Bill 514. House Bill 514 is called the Housing Regulation Transparency Act. And basically what it does is it sets up some standards for local governments as it relates to moratoriums on certain actions. It would limit moratoriums by a local government to 180 days. It would not allow you to renew a moratorium after 180 days without waiting 180 days to reinstitute a moratorium. It also has some information in there about regulating the use of fees that are collected by the local government as it relates to zoning procedures and how those fees have to be accounted for by the local government, and that they can't be used in the general fund for general fund expenditures. It also provides, one section specifically says local governments are authorized to abate, exempt, or waive any fees authorized under this subsection that relate to zoning decisions and related permits for single-family housing developments or projects of less than 2,500 square feet, as long as it's part of our comprehensive plan. I do know that today this particular bill did pass out of the committee on a 12-6 vote, but it appears like there were some changes to the bill that allow, specific to moratoriums, for local governments to be able to act on moratoriums as it relates to existing studies that are underway, which is similar to what we have right now while we're studying comprehensive plans and zoning, and also emergency situations. So I think if we were in a situation as a utility provider, for example, and we did not have capacity, we could set a moratorium until that capacity was reached. The other bill is House Bill 517, which is called the Georgia Homeowner Opportunity Act. I have personally renamed it the Georgia Home Builder Opportunity Act because the bill basically is written in such a way that it eliminates local control over certain things in the building sector. Some of those include the local ability to have any say over design standards. We would not be able to have anything related to exterior building color, type or style of exterior cladding material, style or materials of roof structures or porches, exterior non-structural architectural ornamentation, location or architectural styling of windows and doors, including garage doors, the number and types of rooms, the interior layout of rooms, types of foundation structures approved under the state minimum standards codes, covered parking, structural square footage minimums greater than 1,200 square feet. We would not be allowed to have regulations on lot size minimums where the lots are big enough to have septic. We would not be allowed to create minimums for lot width. We would not be able to have minimums on road frontages. So I guess if you had 2 feet of road frontage, you could put a driveway in or walkway into your house. Additionally, the only way we would have regulations is if the property is historic in nature and is in a historic district. It would allow covenants to be set up, so if you lived in an existing neighborhood with covenants, those covenants could overwrite any of those state requirements, but the city could not unilaterally do that. So I have drafted a resolution for you and given you a copy, and I'll quickly read through it. It is a resolution supporting the maintenance of building design, zoning, and fee control for residential development within the governmental level closest to the residents. Whereas the City of Canton Mayor and Council work in partnership with citizens to establish a unified development code to guide the development of residential dwellings, which reflect the character of the community and encourage positive development and revitalization of residential neighborhoods. And whereas the City of Canton adopts a guideline of zoning categories in partnership with the citizens to establish unified standards that meet the desires of our residents as it relates to residential lot sizes, road frontage requirements for traffic and public safety, and to ensure the uniform development of residential dwellings within character areas of the city. And whereas the City of Canton oversees the changes to the Unified Development Code, cases related to rezonings, annexations, and conditional use permits following the Open Records and Open Meetings Acts of the state of Georgia. And whereas, unlike the state legislature of the state of Georgia, all email correspondence of the city related to such cases or actions taken by the city are available to the public through public records process. And whereas the City of Canton establishes fees associated with the application, permitting, and inspection process related to construction of buildings used to support the administration of documenting, inspecting, protecting environmental concerns of the community, assuring public safety, assuring public health, and re-inspecting projects after they are constructed to protect life and property in the benefit of the citizens. And whereas these fees are adopted on an annual basis as part of our fee schedule at public meetings as part of our annual budget process, and whereas local citizens expect the mayor and council to protect their investments and interests by having development of properties in the city follow standards that have been created through a partnership and public process with the citizens. Now, therefore, it be it resolved by the mayor and council of the city of Canton that this governing body voices its opposition, specifically to House Bill 514 and House Bill 517 in consideration of the state legislature, which would preempt local control at the cost of citizen desires through their locally elected city council. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be delivered to each member of the Georgia House of Representatives and the Georgia State Senate representing the city of Canton, Cherokee County, and made available for distribution to the public and the press. Just to clarify for our residents, if House Bill 517 is passed as it's written, we would not be able to say, you know what, if you have a house that fronts the street, we think there should be a door on the front of the house. And we think your house should be made out of wood. This bill came up in a draft a couple of years ago, and I basically said to a legislator at the time, if someone wanted to create an earthen home made out of mud, they would be able to do that under the regulations that you've written. And I don't think any homeowner wants to see something built next door to them that doesn't match the character of materials that have been established to be safe within the community. Under these particular bills, you would have situations where public hearings that we have on projects that our residents get an opportunity to come and speak at, whether they're in favor or in opposition, those things would not exist because we would not be able to regulate them to begin with. So there are some grave concerns that I have as a staff member representing the interests of the council and of our charter and our codes. And that's why I've prepared this for you and had mentioned it to you in conversations.
Ms. Wilson?
I don't know which one, 514 or 517, but I understand one of our local state representatives has introduced one of those bills, Representative Brad Thomas. So since he's local, I think all of us who are here in Cherokee County might want to talk to our local legislator.
Yes, I mean, I think let's be clear about this. Both of these bills are driven by developers, lobbyists, and they're very powerful. I mean, House Bill 517 is being referred to as the vinyl siding bill. The vinyl siding industry is driving it. And this is a case, and I'm glad we have in the resolution to share it with our residents and our citizens, because just as our citizens comes and ask for our help in ensuring developments close to their neighborhoods are of the quality that they like to see, this is where we need their help talking to their legislators that we can ensure their best interests are protected. And that we can impose moratoriums when we want to control the quality growth in our city. For that to be taken out of our control and us not having authority over that is just absurd. And both of these bills are absurd. And we know where it's coming from. So definitely we need to proceed with these resolutions and send those in. And we do need to share those with our citizens and ask for our citizens' support as quickly as possible and share those with your friends and families and relatives to get as much support and in opposition to these bills as quickly as possible because even though they keep wondering, they've been coming every year for the past several years. I know we've sent resolutions, I've been on council now, 9 years, but I know at least the last 5 or 6 years we've been fighting similar bills to this nature, and so they keep trying and trying and trying, and this feels like they've made a little bit more progress this year than they have in past, so I'm very concerned about it. So,
a couple of things. Again, that's Brad Thomas, if you're taking down names. And also, we should let Representative Mandy Ballinger, know as well how you feel. And then, Mr. Peppers, could you, when you summarize that at the beginning, like if I put this on my social media, the resolution itself, would you send that summary of what these bills are doing so that we can turn it into posts that our neighbors might actually read without the whereas?
or if we could share or summarize the information on the website or social media posts and actually a link to the legislators that people can, their emails or where they can contact them.
The news that I got today, again, I said House Bill 514, which is the one about moratoriums, but also has some language about fees. It did pass out of committee. House Bill 517 hasn't made it to the point to pass out of committee, and it may not. It seems like it's not got the same traction. But what you have to worry about with a bill, especially at the state capitol, is if a similar bill makes it through to crossover day, which is Monday for our legislature, you may get a bill that gets tacked on to it at the last minute as part of the passage. And so we have emailed already this session with Representative Ballinger, who represents the majority of the city of Canton, expressing to her concerns over preemptive bills like this. I noted it in here. I think it needs to be repeated. We have to follow an open records law, so email correspondence and things like that with elected officials and staff, that's all open for public record. The only organization in the state of Georgia that doesn't have to follow that is the state legislature. And so, it's a little frustrating when they say that we're not being transparent about fees and building codes and zoning codes and things like that when we have public discourse and discussion over them, and they are not held to that same standard.
So crossover day is Monday, so everyone here tonight and everyone watching the stream, we need your help this weekend. So
if y'all are good, then you need to add the resolution to the agenda and vote to adopt it and have the mayor execute it.
I'll move to amend the agenda to add discussion and possible action on a resolution supporting the maintenance of building design, zoning, and fee control for residential development with the government level closest to residents.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion, all members voted for the motion. Ms. McGrew?
I make a motion to ask Mr. Peppers to send this resolution to our representatives in the legislature. And will we each need to sign it, or the mayor signs it only? And have the mayor sign it? Thank you.
I'll second that.
A motion is second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All members voted for the motion. Thank you, Mr. Peppers.
That's all I have, unless you have any questions for me tonight.
Any questions?
Well done.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you for your work on that, Mr. Peppers.
Yeah, I'm tired of it.
Don't make Counselor Wilson mad.
Thank you for your efforts on that, Mr.
Thank you.
Peppers.
Didn't have any council introduced items in the agenda approval. I'm just checking again. Okay. We had one item. We have one appointment to make this evening through Mrs. Wilson, and it's a citizen appointment. It's Victoria Stanton to the Historic Preservation Commission. She currently a board member for History Cherokee and is excited and happy to serve on the Historic Preservation Commission. And she will be taking the position expired term for Mr. Bill Teasley. And I believe that will bring that Preservation Commission to a full board, and which is good, which I think they have a case on Monday night. So I will make that nomination and ask Ms. Wilson if she wants to second it, since she that is her appointment.
I certainly do.
And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And we'll welcome Ms. Stanton to the Historic Preservation Commission. So
Thank you, Mayor.
you're welcome. Any, I didn't receive any other appointments or commissions. I just double checked. So we'll update those. And again, I think we still have a few ongoing, but we're making good progress there. So, and with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We are adjourned. Thank you.
I'm not going to go into DK unless I can.